So every few years, my cast iron pans that I use a lot start to get carbon buildup. This is an original Field number 8. This was from the first Kickstarter campaign in 2016. This pan had got quite a bit of carbon buildup. I use it on a gas range all the time. Gas creates quite a bit more carbon than using an induction or a halogen. So it's something that I need to maintain. I probably should have done this a few years ago. It had a fairly severe amount of carbon buildup. In this video, I'm going to show you step by step how I look after my favorite piece of cast iron. Hi, I'm Jed. This is Cook Culture. I've had a piece of Field cast iron cookware since the very first piece of Field was made. The reason that I know that is that this first edition Field number 8 actually has little wheat stalks. Is that right? Wheat stalks, whatever you call them, on the logo beside Field & Company. And that is different than any other Field that's been made since the first run of the number 8. This was from their Kickstarter. So I bought this off of the Field Kickstarter campaign where they raised 1.6 million bucks to make Field cast iron. That's what began the company. And it's been a phenomenal ride since then. I've been involved with them indirectly and then directly for many, many years and have sold a lot of Field to a lot of people and all over the place. And so there's a lot of Field out there. And now my number 8 that I've had since, I guess whatever it is, 2016 was when the Kickstarter campaign was. It's starting to show a little bit of sign of wear and tear. Basically, it's got some fairly heavy carbon deposits on it now, and I want to keep this thing pristine. I don't want it to get layers and layers and layers of nasty carbon that has gotten built just by normal use over time. I use a gas stove at home, and that is one of the best ways of creating carbon. Is the flame just burns any sort of fibrous sort of material onto the pan, and you just kind of can't get away from it. All around the edges and into the corners, you can keep your pan surface beautifully smooth, but in the nooks and crannies, it can be really hard to keep that carbon from building up. So even with the best care, over time, you may get to a point of like, when do you want to recondition this pan? And then what's the best approach? So let's talk about that. Okay, so here is my pan that you've seen in detail. What could we do? There's several things. We could scrub it as hard as we can. I'd suggest getting it as hot as you can manage and then scrub it. Does that work? It's not going to work all that well. The carbon's just really, really built on. We could put it into an open flame and burn it. So if you have an outside fire or some sort of a fire pit, you could put that in and just burn it off. I have only done that to a certain degree. I haven't done that extensively, but I've seen that work really, really well. So that could be an option. We could create a lye bath and put it in lye and soak it in lye. Not everybody's going to have lye at home and just easily make a lye bath, but some people do. So you could use lye and soak it for many days in lye. We could put it in an oven clean in the oven and do like as a self-clean system. That works. We could try something like Barkeeper's Friend. That's going to be a little bit one step up from manual scrubbing. That's going to be okay, but again, the carbon that's on here is pretty intense. And then the other thing that I think a lot of people have at home that is an easy one is oven cleaner, right? So I think oven cleaner is probably the best way to go. So if we use oven cleaner on the pan and put it into a bag and just let it sit for a couple of days, it's pretty simple. So I would suggest to go outside, spray it with oven cleaner all around, lots, and then wrap it in a bag, put it in the direct sun, and leave it for a day, 2 days, 3 days, whichever. And then take it out from there. That's what I'm going to do with this one. I'm going to put this into a bag with some oven cleaner because it's super simple. It's really approachable. I can easily do it and just leave it and set it and forget it. And then we're going to give it a scrub down and just see how much is going to come off. It's not going to strip it entirely. You can do it in multiple steps, but we're going to do one step and just see, does that take enough off to get it down to kind of the original seasoning. So oven cleaner we go. Okay, easy off oven cleaner. Nice and straightforward. I'm just going to get it all around. I'm gonna do everywhere just so we're even. Get some on the back side, just if there's any organic on there. I'm gonna take that down too. All right, so there we go. That is done. And now we're gonna wrap that up and put it away. Okay, so we left this pan in here for a little longer than I had wanted to. It actually got left in for about 10 days. We ended up going away and coming back, and I haven't looked at this pan. So it was pretty well tightened up in this plastic. And we're going to unwrap it and see what this looks like. Take it over the sink, give it a scrub, and hopefully it's taken all that carbon off. So here we go. Okay, so unwrap this guy. It's still, yeah, got a bunch of, you can see that there. Just that carbon just came straight off. So this is looking really, really cool. I'm gonna do actually a close-up of this so you can see how soft and foamy this looks. I have a feeling this carbon is just gonna strip right on off of there, which is great. So we're going to do a close-up, and then we're gonna move the sink, and we're gonna give this a scrub. Here we go. I am, of course, gonna be using my small ring chainmail. And yeah, that is a lot of blackness coming off of there. Yeah, off of everywhere. Yeah, so that first go definitely takes a lot of that carbon off of there. I can still feel a bunch of carbon around the edge. It's not smooth like new, but let's show you here. Okay, so that's the first kind of look. See, if you can see, so carbon well off of here, all around in the edge there. See if I can get better light for you in there. And so a lot of carbon off, but in and around the edge that doesn't matter at all. There's still quite a lot of carbon. I'm going to spend a little bit of time with some elbow grease here and see if I can get that off. Okay, so that pan there is like, it's way, 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 way better. But I don't know if you can see in there, there is still a bunch of carbon stuck all around in the inside, at the far end, and around the inner lip. Again, at the far end. Very common. The heat, when you're kind of flipping things or moving things, the end of the pan, this end, usually is more stubborn than the handle end. Yeah, just kind of how it usually goes. So this is kind of to be expected. If it's gonna be sticky, that's where it's gonna be sticky somewhere. That's just really, really cooked on carbon. So I could easily use this pan. The surface is way, 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 way better than it was before, but this is a gorgeous first run, to me, a heritage going to be, a piece of carbon steel made by Field. I want it to be in pristine shape. So I'm going to spray this again, get it back in the bag, give it a few more days and see if I can get the rest of this carbon off. Okay, so that guy's gone away again for a couple of days. What day is it today? Today is Wednesday. I might even leave it there till Monday. Just no reason why not. So I've got other pans to use. Time definitely is the secret ingredient here. So Wednesday, I'll leave it there until Monday and then we'll see how it looks. Okay, so it's Monday. Here is the pan. Let's see if this has gotten any better or stayed the same. Okay, so another 3 days with this guy. Nicely wrapped up inside there. Yeah, definitely more has happened there. There's no doubt. It's guggy, goopy, and brown and black, and stuff's coming out. But let's see if that has done enough. So let's get it over to the sink and give it a scrub. Okay, so that pan just come off out of the sink, and I scrubbed and scrubbed and scrubbed. We've still got some carbon marks in there. We got some carbon built in here, which drives me a bit batty. And we've got a little bit of carbon in a few spots. The bottom of this pan is in great shape. It's absolutely perfect. So it's still quite stripped down. As you can see, it's still brown. So this pan, before it was seasoned initially, would have been silver. So the iron would have been silver. So this is not stripped right down. So the Easy Off has taken off a lot of the carbon. I put in some elbow grease the first go. I just put in a bunch of elbow grease that second go. I still got some carbon buildup on it, which kind of bugs me. I would love it if this pan was perfectly like new and I was doing a perfectly fresh seasoning on it. But it is in way better shape. The bottom, I was able to clean up really nicely. I can see all the Field Company, number 8, Field insignia, made in the USA. To be honest with you, if I was to get this perfect, and probably next time I do this, I would use a lye bath and get this absolutely perfect. But what I'm trying to convey in this video is how simply can you recondition your Field pan at home and then give it another 5, 6, 7 years of use before you want to recondition it again. Using Easy Off is really easy. You can get it at any grocery store. Putting it in a bag is easy. You just need a bit of ventilation. The process is simple. Lye is something that's more dangerous to use. You need to have more protective gear. And it's not something I like to recommend to people unless they really want to go down that route. I would say, for us, the thousands of people we've sold this pan to, and Field has sold hundreds of thousands of these pans, I would say a very small fraction of those people would want to actually do a lye bath, and everyone else, the Easy Off method is going to be really simple. So that's why I recommend the Easy Off, even though I've had to put in more elbow grease, and I didn't really need to. Really, we're trying to get the base of this pan to be perfect so you don't have all the flaking and carbonization around the cooking surface. But I've got this to like 90%. So it's in really great shape. And once I season this really well, as we're going to go into now, you're not going to really see that. They're going to be like little variations, but because I really can't feel the carbon that's on here, it's really just a very light, kind of heavy adhesion of the carbon that is very hard to get out. For whatever reason, I found this with carbon steel and cast iron, that you get these little marks that just stick there like a scab and they will not come off. As hard as I work them, you need to either go in with a power tool, which is not recommended with a piece of vintage cookware like this. Not to be vintage yet, but it will be. But a pan of this kind of caliber, it's not something we want to take a power tool to, but a power tool would definitely clean up really quickly, but it would scour the surface and it would be imperfect. So I did use some abrasive scouring tools that I'll show you right here. And they worked really well. The chainmail and then a little brass brush, which I find is more like a polish than anything else. It's again not abrasive enough to really get some of this carbon off, but it's helped a ton. It helped that next stage over the chainmail was able to get a little bit deeper, and also be able to work in all of the marks at the back. So all of the indentations in the casting, I was able to get those cleaner and deeper. So that is clean enough for me for this next stage. So now we're going to heat this pan up and we are going to get some seasoning paste all over it. You could also use some grapeseed oil or some canola oil and coat it really thinly all over. We're just going to use the paste because that's what I use for everything. And then we're going to bake it in the oven. So onto the stovetop to preheat this pan. Okay, as I was saying, got Cook Culture seasoning paste. I make it. Buzzy Wax is another great company out of the US that makes it. There's lots of places that make a wax. You can use an oil easily. You're starting to preheat the pan. We're gonna get the bottom warm-ish. I've got it on a 7. We're just getting it warm enough to melt some wax onto it. So I've preheated the rag on it. I'm gonna dig into that a bit. And then I'm just gonna get this all over. And we don't have to get the pan warm everywhere. If the rag is warm enough to heat the wax, then we can coat the pan all around. And even on the handle. And then we're going to turn that off and over and do the same thing on the back side. All right. So we're going to get this into a 550 degree oven. I do recommend usually just doing like a 400, 350 degree oven. Because seasoning is a polymerization, blackening, carbonization happens with heat, and it's not necessary for seasoning. But I want to make this look kind of like it came out of the package. So I am going to carbonize. I am going to cook this thing hot, 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 and get it as black as I can. So as you can see on this edge, it's quite golden. There's some exposure there for the iron. So we've got the seasoning on there, and then we're going to get that in the oven, and we are going to bake that bad boy in the oven for an hour at about 550. Okay, so this guy is got one coating on him, and I'm going to do a close-up for you so you can see. I scrubbed it down to pretty bare, not right down to the iron as you saw. It got really thin in a couple of spots, and you can still see that. So I'm going to show you the real close-up here with one coating of seasoning on it, and why I'm going to continue to do more. Okay, so getting right in here. So you can still see quite a bit of the thinness where I was scrubbing hard around there. So it's kind of goldeny because it got thin to the metal. And the previous seasoning still on there. So that pan, as you can see when you get really close, there's still a little bit of carbon stuck on there. That's not going to be a big deal once it's done. But if I season this more and I get more of a consistent color, it'll just look more consistent. I could leave this just totally fine now and cook with this. That would not be a problem. But I want to try to get this more uniform. So I'm going to do some more coats. Here we go. Okay, so round 2 just finished up. It's looking good in some spots and not great in others yet. So like definitely a lot darker all over. I'll do another close-up here when I've got it laying flat. But we got to keep going. So that's just 2. And we'll go on to coating number 3 next. Okay, next round done there. I've just got this one preheated, so it's nice and hot. So this is, I'm ready to apply the next layer of seasoning paste on it. But it's starting to look pretty good. I'm getting some fairly good consistency in color all the way around. It's not like it was new, but I'm really happy with it. So here's a nice close-up of this pan. Okay, so still as you can see, the surface still has some building to do. It's not exactly as I want it yet. There's still on the edge a bit of discoloration, but it's coming. All right, we've got a couple more layers to go here. Okay, so another round. Things are starting to look really, 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 really good. So getting mostly the color that we want. So that is good. We're gonna get this back into the oven here, but first we're gonna put in one more layer of paste. Here we go. Okay, there's another round, 550 degrees for 1 hour. Okay, so there she is, looking beautiful. Yeah, so let's take a closer look to this, eh? Okay, so the surface is wonderfully developed. Got some really nice color all around. Still a bit of gold in there where I took right down to like the silver, but it is really nicely covered. And on the back side of that guy, there is the beautiful detail. And what's really cool, so this, as I told you earlier, was from the very first run of these guys that were made. So the little wheat stalks here on each end, this is actually what defines that. So those little details on the side of Field Company, every other run of pans, other than the very, very first one, don't have those, and I do. And anyone else who has one of those, that is from the first run, and that's how you know. So pretty cool. Okay, here is the final product. This is looking wonderful, super smooth. There's a little bit of carbon buildup right on this little tab here. Not a big deal, but really that's the only place that we've got carbon buildup. This guy is looking wonderful all around. Every bit of this pan is looking amazing. So really, really happy with this process. I probably should have done this sooner. That was 6 years from the time that I got this pan to the time that I reconditioned it. I probably should have done this maybe in 4 years. This pan's been used on gas predominantly, and that has cooked a lot of carbonization on it. It's cooked a lot of the food that was in it and really cooked it onto the iron. I probably should have soaked this in the oven cleaner several years ago. It would have been a faster, easier stripping job. The post seasoning is the same, but it would have been easier. So as that carbon really starts to grab onto the iron and build, as you start to see that building starting to build, I would get on top of that, strip that down. Even if that's a year of some heavy use that you've done, it's an easy, simple process. For the amount that we get to use these guys, it's a really simple process. It doesn't take a lot of time. I put a lot of time into seasoning this 5 times in the oven. I didn't need to do 5 times. I could have done 1 time and then just started using the pan and just cooked with it using, fattier foods and not drying foods, not things that are gonna build the carbon again. And I could have built my seasoning that way, but I decided I really wanted to do it in a very, very hot oven like they do at Field, and get that kind of blacky carbon look to it. And not the golden color that I do in most pans, just so it looked authentic, like I first originally got out of the box. It's just kind of fun. Doesn't really change anything. It's no real difference. It worked just totally fine. The seasoning is going to be excellent the way in which I did it, and I'm really excited to start using this pan. So I hope that helped. It's a little bit of legwork up here to give yourself years and years and years of use. So any questions, any comments, please throw them below. Thanks so much. Enjoy using your Field.